I'm Tom, and I've been married to Carrie for almost a decade now. We've always been a team, tackling life's challenges side by side. But lately, it feels like our partnership is being tested more than ever. For the past 3 years, our financial situation has been a constant source of stress, and it's taking a toll on our relationship. I run a small business, a modest operation that's never quite reached the level of success I had hoped for. Every month we scrape by, juggling bills and trying to keep our heads above water. Carrie, my wife, has always been the more ambitious one. She recently joined an IT company, and while it's a step up from her previous job, it's also come with its own set of challenges. She's been working long hours, and I can see the exhaustion in her eyes. I used to take pride in being the provider, but lately, it feels like all I'm providing is a never-ending cycle of worry. Carrie's new job was supposed to help us get back on track, but instead, it seems to have deepened the divide between us. We talk less and argue more, and the constant strain of financial instability is making it hard for us to connect. Carrie's enthusiasm for her new role is palpable, but it's also made her distant. She's consumed by work, often coming home late and too tired to engage in our usual routines. I want to support her, but the growing distance between us is hard to ignore. I can't help but feel that our problems are escalating, and I'm struggling to keep everything from falling apart. It's a frustrating situation, watching as Carrie invests so much of herself into her job, while our personal life seems to be slipping away. We've been trying to hold on, hoping that things will improve, but every month feels like another hurdle we have to overcome. And as much as I want to be hopeful, I can't shake the feeling that we're running out of time to fix what's broken. We both want the same thing, a stable and secure future, but it feels like we're moving further away from that goal with every passing day. The financial strain has become more than just a number on a bank statement. It's a growing chasm between us, and I'm not sure how much longer we can keep pretending that everything is okay. The day Carrie received the invitation to the IT conference was one of the few bright spots in our recent memory. I remember her excitement vividly as she burst into the kitchen, holding the envelope like a precious gift. The letter was an invitation to a major IT conference held at a luxurious resort in Miami, a place neither of us could have imagined visiting under our current circumstances. Carrie's eyes sparkled as she read the details aloud. The conference was to be hosted at a 5-star hotel, complete with gourmet dining and exclusive networking events. For Carrie, this was more than just an invitation. It was an opportunity to elevate her career. She saw it as a gateway to new connections, professional growth, and hopefully, a boost that could help us financially. She was understandably thrilled. The prospect of attending such a high-profile event felt like a break from the monotony of our struggles. We both knew that her career had been stalling due to the limited opportunities in our small town, and this conference seemed like a golden chance to change that. Carrie spoke about the potential for networking with industry leaders and gaining insights that could propel her forward. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and for a moment, I allowed myself to feel hopeful too. We discussed the cost of the trip in detail. The conference covered the registration fee, but the expenses for travel, accommodation, and meals were not included. Given our tight budget, I was initially hesitant. I worried about the strain on our already stretched finances. However, Carrie's optimism was hard to resist. She argued that the investment would pay off in the long run, and I couldn't deny the importance of this chance for her career. Carrie reassured me that she would handle the arrangements and keep the costs as low as possible. She promised that the potential benefits far outweighed the immediate expenses. We agreed that this was a risk worth taking, a necessary gamble for the sake of her professional growth and hopefully our financial stability. In the weeks leading up to the conference, Carrie immersed herself in preparation. She meticulously planned her itinerary, researched the key speakers, and set goals for what she hoped to achieve. Her dedication was palpable, and I couldn't help but admire her determination. As the conference approached, our conversation shifted from financial woes to the exciting prospects ahead. Carrie's anticipation was a welcome distraction from our everyday worries. I watched her pack her bags with a mix of pride and apprehension, knowing how much this meant to her, and hoping that it would be the breakthrough we desperately needed. The day Carrie left for the IT conference, I was both excited for her and anxious about what lay ahead. We had spent weeks preparing for this moment, and now it was finally here. As I stood at the airport with her, watching her prepare to board the flight, her excitement was almost palpable. Carrie had spent the morning before her departure, brimming with energy and anticipation. She had meticulously reviewed her schedule, packed her presentation materials, and studied the profiles of the key speakers she hoped to meet. Her enthusiasm was infectious, and I tried my best to share in her excitement, even though I had my reservations. As we sat in the terminal waiting for her flight, Carrie couldn't contain her eagerness. She spoke animatedly about the sessions she was looking forward to and the people she hoped to connect with. Her eyes sparkled as she described the innovative technologies that would be showcased and the potential collaborations that could arise from the event. It was clear that she saw this conference as a pivotal moment in her career, a chance to step into a new realm of possibilities. Despite her high spirits, I couldn't shake off the nagging worries that had been plaguing me. The cost of the trip was significant, and although we had managed to cover the basics, the lingering fear of how this would affect our already strained finances was ever present. My mind raced with thoughts of unexpected expenses, the cost of dining and transportation, and whether this investment would truly pay off. I tried to focus on being supportive, but my anxiety was hard to mask. Carrie could sense my unease and tried to reassure me, promising that she would be careful with expenses and make the most of every opportunity. She mentioned that she planned to stick to a budget and take advantage of any networking opportunities that might offer long-term benefits. Her optimism was genuine, and I wanted to believe that this would be a turning point for us. Before she left, Carrie gave me a warm hug and a reassuring smile. "I know this is a big leap for us, Tom," she said, "but I believe it's going to make a difference. I promise to make the most of this chance and bring back something valuable." As I watched her walk through the security checkpoint, I felt a mix of pride and apprehension. I was proud of Carrie for seizing this opportunity and pursuing her professional goals with such determination. At the same time, I was deeply concerned about how we would manage if things didn't go as planned. The uncertainty of our financial situation weighed heavily on me, and I could only hope that this leap of faith would lead to the positive change we needed. Carrie's excitement was a stark contrast to my anxiety, and I tried to hold on to her optimism as I left the airport. I knew that her success at the conference could be a turning point for us, but the fear of the unknown remained a constant companion. As I returned home, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held and how this crucial moment would shape our lives. The first day of the conference was a whirlwind of activity and excitement for Carrie. She had barely settled into her hotel room before diving into the event's myriad sessions and networking opportunities. I could tell from her voice over the phone that she was already deep into the conference, eagerly recounting every detail. It was during one of the keynote speeches that Carrie met Daniel, the guest lecturer. Daniel Harrison was a well-known figure in the IT world, an accomplished entrepreneur and leading expert with a reputation for innovation and success. From what Carrie described, he was everything you'd expect from someone of his stature: charismatic, confident, and deeply knowledgeable about his field. Carrie was immediately captivated by him. She mentioned his magnetic presence and how his talk on emerging technologies left her inspired. Daniel's confidence was evident in every word he spoke, and Carrie felt an immediate connection to his vision and ideas. It was as if he had the power to make the complex world of IT seem both accessible and exciting. After the keynote session, Carrie had the chance to meet Daniel during a networking event. She was excited to share that he was approachable and genuinely interested in her thoughts and aspirations. They discussed her work and her aspirations within the IT industry. Daniel's attention and insightful questions made Carrie feel valued and understood in a way she hadn't experienced before. Carrie's descriptions of their conversation were full of enthusiasm. She spoke about Daniel's passion for technology and his success in creating groundbreaking projects. He had shared stories of his challenges and triumphs, and his advice resonated with her deeply. Daniel's ability to blend professional expertise with personal anecdotes made him not just a mentor, but someone she could relate to on a more personal level. The more Carrie talked about Daniel, the more I could sense her growing admiration for him. She was fascinated not only by his professional achievements, but also by his demeanor and charisma. He had a way of making her feel like she was part of something bigger, something that could potentially transform her career and, by extension, our lives. Carrie told me how Daniel had suggested she consider some new approaches in her work, and had even offered to review her project ideas, It was clear that Daniel's influence was significant, and Carrie saw him as a crucial ally in her quest for professional advancement. His endorsement and encouragement were like a beacon of hope for her, especially in the midst of our financial struggles. As Carrie shared these details with me, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of pride and unease. I was proud of her for making such a valuable connection and seizing this opportunity with enthusiasm. Yet, I also felt a pang of worry. The more Carrie talked about Daniel, the more I realized how much she admired him. I hoped that this admiration would translate into tangible benefits for her career, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this relationship than just professional mentorship. Daniel Harrison had undeniably made a strong impression on Carrie, and as she continued to navigate the conference, I watched anxiously from afar, hoping that this connection would indeed lead to the positive changes we so desperately needed. The evening after Carrie's initial encounter with Daniel, I eagerly awaited her call. She had been brimming with excitement about her day at the conference, and I was keen to hear all about it. When she finally rang, her voice was alive with enthusiasm, recounting her interactions and the impact they had on her. "Tom, you wouldn't believe how incredible Daniel is," Carrie began, her excitement barely contained. "He's not just a brilliant entrepreneur, he's so down-to-earth and engaging. His keynote was amazing, but meeting him in person was even better." Carrie went on to describe Daniel's ideas and insights with great detail. She spoke about how he had outlined innovative approaches to technology and discussed the future of the industry with a clarity and passion that left her in awe. His vision for the field seemed to align perfectly with her aspirations, and she felt invigorated by their discussions. "He's got this amazing way of breaking down complex concepts," she explained. "And the way he talks about the future of IT, it's like he's painting a picture of what's possible. I can't stop thinking about the potential opportunities." I listened attentively, trying to match her enthusiasm with my own. It was clear that Daniel had made a significant impression on Carrie. She was captivated not only by his expertise, but also by his engaging manner. Her admiration for him was palpable, and it was evident that she saw him as a key figure in her professional journey. Despite the excitement in Carrie's voice, I couldn't completely set aside my reservations. While I trusted Carrie's judgment and believed that her interest in Daniel was purely professional, a small part of me couldn't help but feel a bit uneasy. The intensity of her reaction and the way she spoke about Daniel's influence made me wonder if there was more to it than just professional admiration. "Daniel seems like a fantastic mentor," I said, trying to sound supportive. "It's great to hear that you're so inspired. I'm glad you're getting these opportunities. Just remember to stay focused on what's best for your career and us." Carrie assured me that her interest in Daniel was purely professional. She was genuinely excited about the potential to learn from him and apply his ideas to her work. She promised that her focus was on leveraging this opportunity to advance her career and improve our financial situation. As the conversation continued, I could sense the genuine excitement in her voice. It was reassuring to hear how Daniel's ideas resonated with her and how she planned to incorporate them into her work. I wanted to believe that this was indeed just a professional connection and that the positive changes she envisioned would come to fruition. Despite my lingering concerns, I made a conscious effort to trust Carrie's judgment and support her enthusiasm. This was a crucial moment for her career, and I hoped that the impact of her interactions with Daniel would lead to the breakthroughs we had been waiting for. As she wrapped up the call and we said our goodbyes, I was left with a hopeful sense of anticipation, tempered with a hint of apprehension. After the conference, Carrie's connection with Daniel began to evolve into something more substantial. She started communicating with him frequently, and it was clear that their professional relationship was growing stronger. Carrie mentioned that Daniel had offered her opportunities to participate in several high-profile projects, which could significantly boost her career. "Tom, Daniel has been so generous," Carrie told me one evening. "He's invited me to collaborate on some exciting projects that could make a difference in my career. I'm thrilled about the potential these opportunities hold." Her excitement was palpable as she spoke about the projects Daniel had proposed. They involved cutting-edge technology and innovative approaches that aligned perfectly with her career goals. Carrie was enthusiastic about the chance to work closely with someone of Daniel's caliber, and she felt that this could be a game-changer for her professional development. While I was pleased to hear that Carrie was making such promising strides, I couldn't completely ignore the fact that she was now in regular contact with Daniel. I reminded myself to stay supportive, focusing on the positive impact these new opportunities could have on our financial situation. As weeks went by, Carrie's interactions with Daniel became increasingly frequent. She started spending more time on calls and working on projects with him, often late into the night. It was evident that their professional relationship was deepening, but it was also affecting her attention towards me and our financial situation. Carrie's focus shifted noticeably. Our conversations became less frequent, and she seemed preoccupied with her work and the projects with Daniel. I found myself increasingly sidelined, feeling neglected and distanced from the concerns that had once been our shared burden. The mounting enthusiasm for her work with Daniel seemed to overshadow the pressing financial issues we faced. It was as if the excitement of her new opportunities was creating a buffer between her and our reality. I couldn't shake the feeling that her growing connection with Daniel was beginning to affect more than just her professional life. The changes in Carrie's behavior became more pronounced over time, and I began to notice a troubling pattern. She started returning home late more frequently, her arrival marked by an air of detachment that was becoming increasingly hard to ignore. Each time I asked her about her late nights, she assured me that she was deeply immersed in the new projects with Daniel. Her enthusiasm was evident, but it was accompanied by a growing sense of distance from me and our life together. It wasn't just the late hours that raised my concerns. Carrie's demeanor was different. She had become more preoccupied, often lost in her thoughts, and she would sometimes snap at me over trivial matters. Our once easygoing conversations had turned into brief, almost mechanical exchanges. I felt like I was losing touch with her, and the strain was palpable. One evening, after another long day at work, Carrie came home exhausted. She had barely greeted me before heading straight to the bedroom. I could tell that she was preoccupied, her mind elsewhere. I followed her into the room, hoping to discuss our day and reconnect, but she seemed distant, her responses curt and distracted. "Carrie, you've been working late a lot lately," I ventured, trying to keep my tone gentle. "Is everything okay? I mean, it's been quite a while since we had a chance to sit down and talk, and I've noticed that our financial situation is still a worry. Are the projects demanding this much of your time?" She looked up from her phone, her expression guarded. "I'm sorry, Tom. It's just that these projects are demanding. Daniel is counting on me, and I want to make sure I deliver quality work. I know things have been tense, but I'm doing my best to make sure everything falls into place." Her explanation, while plausible, did little to ease my concerns. The frequency of her late nights and her emotional distance were beginning to paint a more unsettling picture. I had always trusted Carrie's professionalism and commitment, but the way her work with Daniel seemed to consume her was starting to feel like a barrier between us. My suspicions grew as I began to piece together the signs. Her phone seemed to be perpetually in her hand, and I occasionally caught glimpses of text messages from Daniel, messages that seemed to go beyond mere work-related communication. Although I had no concrete evidence of any wrongdoing, the accumulation of little details made me uneasy. I tried to address my concerns with Carrie in a non-confrontational way, hoping to understand what was truly going on. "I just want us to be okay," I said, attempting to bridge the gap that had formed. "Our financial issues haven't gone away, and I feel like we're drifting apart. Maybe we can find a way to balance things better." Carrie's reaction was one of frustration. She defended her work fervently, insisting that she was committed to both her professional responsibilities and our relationship. Yet her defensiveness and the lack of open communication only deepened my anxiety. As the days passed, the gulf between us widened. I found myself increasingly isolated, grappling with doubts about Carrie's commitments and our future together. The excitement that had initially surrounded her professional achievements now seemed to cast a shadow over our relationship. The growing distance between us was more than just emotional. It was a chasm that threatened to pull us apart if we couldn't find a way to address it. The interim crisis was not just about Carrie's late nights or her involvement with Daniel. It was about the growing sense of unease and the underlying question of what, if anything, was slipping away from us. The day Carrie's confession came was a day like any other, yet it marked a seismic shift in our lives. The evening had started normally. We had both been home early for once, and Carrie suggested we sit down for a quiet dinner together. Her tone was unusually somber, and as we sat across from each other at the dining table, I sensed a heaviness in the air. Carrie had been more distant than usual, her mind occupied with something beyond our immediate concerns. I watched her as she pushed her food around on her plate, seemingly lost in thought. Her fingers fidgeted with the edge of her napkin, and I could tell that she was struggling with something she needed to say. "Tom," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "there's something I need to tell you. I've been keeping something from you, and I can't hide it any longer." My heart sank as I looked at her. I could tell that whatever she was about to say was serious. The room seemed to close in around us, the clinking of silverware and the hum of the refrigerator the only sounds filling the tense silence. "I've been seeing Daniel," Carrie admitted, her eyes brimming with tears. "It started after the conference. We began talking more and working together on these projects. At first, it was just professional, but it turned into something more." The weight of her words hit me like a physical blow. I struggled to process what she was saying, my mind racing through a storm of emotions: shock, anger, and disbelief. Carrie's admission was like a cruel twist in a story I had hoped would end differently. "He's been a significant part of my life lately," Carrie continued, her voice breaking. "He's offered me opportunities I never thought I'd have, and I've come to see him as more than just a colleague. I feel like he represents a chance for a better life, a more stable future." I stared at her, trying to reconcile her words with the reality I had been living. The pain of her betrayal was intense, yet beneath it was a confusing mix of frustration and sadness. "So, what are you saying, Carrie?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "That you're in a relationship with him?" Carrie nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I've fallen for him, and I see a future with him that I don't think is possible with us right now. I'm so sorry, Tom. I never wanted to hurt you, but I needed to be honest." The honesty she offered was cold comfort. The realization that Carrie had not only been unfaithful, but had also been envisioning a future with someone else was a heavy burden. My heart ached with the weight of her confession, and I felt as though everything I had trusted and hoped for was unraveling before me. "It's not just about the financial issues," she added, trying to explain. "It's about feeling like I'm stuck and wanting to break free. Daniel has given me hope and a sense of possibility that I haven't felt in a long time." Her words were a harsh reminder of our struggles, yet they also deepened the pain of her betrayal. The fact that she saw Daniel as a symbol of hope while distancing herself from our problems was a painful blow. It was clear that her vision of a better life with him had overshadowed everything we had built together. As the evening wore on, Carrie's confession left a profound silence between us. The future of our relationship seemed uncertain, overshadowed by the reality of her affair and the dream she now harbored with someone else. The path ahead was unclear, and I was left to grapple with the emotional fallout of her revelation and the dawning question of what came next. The weight of Carrie's confession settled heavily on my shoulders, and I found myself grappling with a profound sense of betrayal and emptiness. The world seemed to blur around me as I tried to come to terms with the reality that had shattered my trust and my sense of stability. The initial shock of Carrie's words was quickly replaced by an all-consuming pain. I felt as though the ground beneath me had crumbled, leaving me adrift in a sea of despair. The betrayal was not just about the infidelity itself, but the crushing realization that Carrie had been envisioning a future with someone else, someone who symbolized the very things we had been striving for but had failed to attain. Each night, as I lay in bed alone, my thoughts raced uncontrollably. I replayed her confession over and over, trying to make sense of the emotions that swirled within me. Anger, sadness, and disbelief fought for dominance, creating a storm of feelings that left me feeling hollow and broken. Carrie's actions had struck at the core of my fears. The financial problems that had been a source of stress and anxiety now seemed insurmountable, exacerbated by the knowledge that my wife had sought solace and hope in someone else. Her promise of a better future with Daniel was a cruel reminder of our struggles and failures. It was as if she had abandoned our shared fight, choosing instead to place her faith in a different path, one that was now intertwined with betrayal. The emotional weight of her deception was compounded by the practical implications. I found myself grappling not only with the personal pain of her betrayal, but also with the looming uncertainty of our financial situation. The sense of stability and partnership that I had once relied on was now eroded, leaving me with a profound sense of insecurity about the future. In conversations with Carrie, I struggled to find the right words to express the depth of my anguish. My attempts to communicate were often met with her sorrow and regret, but they did little to alleviate the pain I felt. The distance that had grown between us seemed insurmountable, and each interaction was tinged with the lingering sting of her infidelity. My world felt shattered, and I grappled with a profound sense of helplessness. The dreams and plans that had once seemed so attainable now felt distant and out of reach. The future, once shared and filled with promise, had become an uncertain void. The process of coming to terms with Carrie's betrayal was both an emotional and psychological struggle. I felt as though I was navigating through a dense fog of grief and disillusionment. The pain of knowing that she had sought a better future with someone else, while leaving me to deal with the wreckage of our shared life, was a wound that seemed impossible to heal. Amid this devastation, I faced the daunting task of redefining my life and finding a path forward. The journey of healing and rebuilding, both emotionally and practically, felt overwhelming. The betrayal had left deep scars, and the road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges. As I worked to reconcile the past with the present, I was left with the difficult task of finding a way to move forward from the wreckage of what had once been our life together. In the wake of the tumultuous confession, Carrie seemed desperate to mend the rift between us. Her efforts to address our fractured relationship were earnest, but the foundation of trust had been deeply eroded. Her promises of change and resolution felt hollow against the backdrop of her betrayal, leaving me skeptical and conflicted. Carrie began by expressing her remorse with a level of sincerity that was hard to ignore. She assured me that she wanted to work through our issues and was committed to repairing the damage caused by her actions. She repeatedly apologized, emphasizing her regret and her desire to make things right. One evening, after days of tense silence, Carrie approached me with a plan. "Tom, I know I've hurt you deeply," she said, her voice filled with desperation. "But I want to fix this. I've been thinking a lot about what we need to do to get back on track. I'm ready to put in the effort to resolve our problems." She detailed a series of steps she intended to take to address both our relationship and our financial difficulties. She proposed counseling, both individual and couples therapy, and vowed to work more closely with me on our finances. She also promised to cut ties with Daniel and focus solely on rebuilding our trust. "I've arranged for us to see a financial advisor," Carrie continued, "and I want us to start attending therapy sessions together. I understand if you're skeptical, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show you that I'm committed to making this right." Despite her proactive approach, the skepticism within me was hard to shake. Her promises were met with a wave of doubt. The emotional wounds inflicted by her betrayal were still raw, and I struggled to reconcile the sincerity of her intentions with the reality of the hurt she had caused. The very trust that was crucial for any repair was missing, and I found it challenging to believe that our relationship could be restored to what it once was. Every attempt Carrie made to reach out was met with a mix of guarded hope and hesitancy. I attended the therapy sessions with her, seeking to understand her commitment and to address the underlying issues that had led to our current situation. However, each session was fraught with emotional tension, and the progress seemed slow and incremental. The financial advisors' meetings, while practical, also felt like a reminder of our failures rather than a solution to our problems. The financial strain that had contributed to the breakdown of our relationship was still very much present, and the path to stability felt long and uncertain. Carrie's attempts to cut ties with Daniel were a visible gesture of her commitment, but the emotional scars left by the affair were not so easily erased. I struggled with the lingering doubts about whether her changes were genuine or simply a response to the immediate crisis. In the quiet moments when I reflected on our situation, I found myself grappling with a mix of emotions. I wanted to believe that Carrie's efforts were sincere and that we could rebuild our relationship, but the path forward was fraught with uncertainty. The process of healing required not just actions, but a deep reconnection that was difficult to achieve in the wake of such profound betrayal. Carrie's attempts to make amends were a testament to her desire to repair what had been broken, but the journey to rebuild trust was complex and challenging. As we navigated this difficult period, I was left to weigh the possibility of reconciliation against the backdrop of the pain and distrust that had been woven into the fabric of our relationship. Despite Carrie's promises and the concerted effort she made to mend our relationship, the reality of her continued involvement with Daniel soon became apparent. Her commitment to maintaining a professional relationship with him, while crucial for her career growth, began to intertwine with their connection, complicating our already strained situation. As weeks passed, Carrie's involvement with Daniel did not diminish. She continued to work closely with him on various projects, and their relationship, while ostensibly professional, carried an undercurrent of personal attachment that was impossible to ignore. I could see the changes in her demeanor, the subtle shifts in her priorities that reflected a deeper connection with him. Carrie's professional opportunities with Daniel did indeed bring some positive changes to our financial situation. She began to receive lucrative offers and promotions, and the prospects of a more stable financial future seemed within reach. However, these gains came with the price of my continued distress and the increasing awareness that her relationship with Daniel was not as severed as she had claimed. Every time she returned home, the lines between her professional success and personal betrayal seemed to blur. Her dedication to her career, while beneficial for our finances, only served as a constant reminder of the betrayal that had shaken our marriage. The emotional distance between us grew as she was increasingly absorbed in her work and her connection with Daniel. I struggled to come to terms with the situation, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy in our home while managing the financial implications of Carrie's career advancement. I focused on preserving our family's assets and stability, working to safeguard our home and any investments we had made together. The process was stressful and overwhelming, and it often felt like a balancing act between addressing our immediate financial needs and coping with the emotional fallout. The tension in our home was palpable. Carrie's continued involvement with Daniel created an atmosphere of unease, and our conversations often felt strained and superficial. I found myself grappling with a mix of resignation and frustration, trying to reconcile the financial benefits of her professional success with the personal pain of her betrayal. Despite my efforts to cope with the situation, the emotional strain took its toll. I grappled with feelings of inadequacy and helplessness as I watched Carrie navigate her career with Daniel while our relationship continued to suffer. The duality of her professional success and our turmoil was a constant source of conflict, leaving me to question the future of our marriage and our family life. Amid these challenges, I sought solace in focusing on practical matters, attempting to shield myself from the emotional turmoil. I worked tirelessly to manage our finances and maintain our household, even as the personal connection between Carrie and me remained fractured. The struggle to balance the practical and emotional aspects of our lives became a central theme as we navigated the unfolding reality of our changed circumstances. As Carrie's relationship with Daniel continued to evolve, I faced the difficult task of managing both the tangible and intangible aspects of our situation. The financial improvements were a small consolation in the face of the ongoing personal betrayal, and the path forward remained fraught with uncertainty and emotional complexity. As the days turned into weeks, it became increasingly clear that I could no longer endure the strain of our fractured relationship. The relentless tension and emotional distress had reached a breaking point, and I found myself grappling with the realization that continuing on this path was unsustainable. The persistent strain of balancing our financial struggles with the emotional weight of Carrie's betrayal had left me feeling drained and defeated. I began to consider the possibility that our marriage, as it was, could not be repaired. The emotional gulf between us had widened, and Carrie's ongoing relationship with Daniel, despite her assurances, only deepened the chasm. The financial improvements brought by her career advancements felt hollow in the face of our disintegration. The imbalance between her professional success and our turmoil became a constant reminder of the issues we faced. After much reflection and countless sleepless nights, I came to the difficult conclusion that it was time to reevaluate our relationship. The thought of continuing in a state of emotional and financial upheaval seemed unbearable. I needed to find a way to move forward, whether it meant seeking a resolution that would allow us to heal or coming to terms with the possibility of separation. In a moment of clarity, I decided to have an open and honest conversation with Carrie. It was clear that our relationship had reached a crossroads, and it was essential to address our situation head-on. The conversation was painful, but necessary. I expressed my feelings of disillusionment and my need for change, emphasizing that continuing to live in our current state was no longer viable. Carrie, though visibly distressed, understood the gravity of the situation. She acknowledged the severity of our problems and admitted that our relationship was far from where it once was. Her feelings were conflicted, as she too had been struggling with the consequences of her actions and the impact on our lives. We both knew that the path ahead required a decisive choice. The culmination of our conversations and reflections led us to a pivotal decision regarding our future. The realization that our marriage could not continue in its current form was a sobering truth that we both had to confront. The emotional damage, coupled with the ongoing financial strain, made it evident that our relationship needed a significant change. We decided that the most prudent course of action was to pursue a separation. The decision was reached with heavy hearts, but it was clear that continuing together under the current circumstances would only prolong the pain and uncertainty. The separation was a step towards allowing both of us the space to heal and reassess our paths. The process of separation was challenging and filled with mixed emotions. We worked together to navigate the practical aspects, such as dividing our assets and addressing our financial obligations. Despite the difficulty of this process, it was essential to approach it with a sense of cooperation and mutual respect. In the end, the decision to part ways was a recognition of the profound changes that had occurred in our relationship. While it was a painful and difficult conclusion, it represented a necessary step towards finding peace and forging a new path forward. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was an opportunity for both of us to explore new possibilities and work towards a future that could offer a renewed sense of hope and fulfillment.